Okay, today I wanted to talk about solo leveling. It is a kind of isekai story set in actually in the real world of all things. And I wanted to talk about this one because it's getting an anime, and I reread it probably about a year ago. I think somewhere around there, a year ago, and now the anime is coming out, and I'm rewatching the anime, and it's really good. It's pretty good. It's very entertaining. Exactly all the reasons why I initially liked it. Um, but the first wanted to talk about this is I wanted to answer the question of why is solo leveling so much better than all the other isekai stories? What does it do that nothing else does? And that's what I wanted to kind of go over. So, to kind of begin, for a plot summary, what we have is we have the real world. Kind of boring, but you know what? We can fix that. Turns out in this real world, there are gates that open up. There are gates that open up, and then all kinds of monsters or something pop out of them, with giant, evil eyes and sharp, pointy teeth and all that little stuff, and high levels as far as it goes. And basically, these things will prey on the world and kill everyone. But it turns out, luckily enough, there are what are called hunters. Hunters are people who go in and fight these monsters, and they're classified into levels. So you've kind of got S to E, basically, from here. So S being the highest, E being the lowest, and this is something that people are born with. There's no changing. And this is kind of the world that we live in, where monsters show up periodically, and the people who are born with this ability can then go fight them or get awakened, can then go fight these monsters. Otherwise, other people just are food for the monsters, basically. And these monsters are kind of all of your classic Dungeons and Dragons sorts of monsters. They kind of follow the normal path that you'd expect. So this is kind of the scenario. Our main character here, Mr. Jin-Woo, Senior Jin-Woo, is a E rank. So he is near the bottom of the bottom, as most of the bottom as you can get. So he's going through these dungeons, though, doing the best he can, trying to stick it out in order to help support his sister, his younger sister, and his mom, who is in the hospital. So this is kind of, again, when you're thinking of introducing your story, you're thinking about a few different things. Why does the audience want to continue to watch this? So far what we've got is we've got a good guy who's trying. This is kind of how we're introduced to him. He's the weakest dungeon guy who goes in dungeons. He's the weakest. Okay. So what kind of the question from there from the beginning is he going to succeed? Is he going to die? What's going to happen to him? But then we get to and that kind of gets the ball rolling. Again, for plot and audience interest, you kind of want to think of it as kind of this sort of arc, where this is where you kind of have a beginning, and this is where you have a really cool moment. And what you have is you have a snowball, basically, that is continually building and building and building. And what you're hoping is that by the end of this downswing, the snowball in this instance is a giant snowball. It's huge at this end, because what you want is, this is the payoff. If you want to think of this as the payoff, this is what the audience gets, the reward, the satisfaction for getting to the end of the story. This is what a lot of stories do, is they'll have, the old fairy tales always used to have the 3 Gs. You would get the gold, you'd get glory, and you'd get the girl, basically, or the princess, something like that. That's usually, and this is what a lot of stories follow, this is that as the main character gets to the end of it, he's famous, he's saved the town, the girl, the prettiest girl in town who he's loved, now loves him, and he's got that job opportunity. He can now fulfill his dream. And this is the reason why sequels often suck, is because the second the sequel starts, you end up like cutting all of this out. You basically remove all of this and make the main character start over at zero again. Bam. Either way. So, but this is the reward, and this is, deep characters. Let's see, deep characters. We could call this hard work, character development. From there, this is, the satisfaction for a job well done. You get the bad guy. We were talking about the Equalizer the other day, and what you got with that one is you have, he's going out and he's getting the bad guys. We want to see the bad guys get got. More or less for that. He's going to find them and kill them. So this is the payoff, but this is what you want to think of, is this whole part is not moving fast. So if we also think about this aspect, you know, if you want to think about this as as far as your axis, maybe it's up here. Oops. Up here is your axis is, you know, actually I don't know how to do graphs, but basically what you're thinking is this is the, you know, the more interesting, the faster paced it's going. So the more greater the slope, the faster the pace. So up here in this part, this is kind of the slow introductory period. So how we're trying to get around that, the author is we're introducing this interesting world. Bam! Interesting world. Okay, let's see what happens in this interesting world. Super weak guy. Okay, he's relatable. We're super weak. You know, in real life, we don't feel super overpowered or anything like that. And then the other thing is that he's the weakest character, but he's trying to do it for a good cause. So now we're willing to listen and see what's going to happen to his plight. You know, we're looking to see what happens and how he's able to get through the dungeon from there. Some dog's barking off in the backyard. Won't be quiet. Somebody feed that dog. Somebody pet that dog. So this is where it is. So we're beginning. He's going into a dungeon and he's kind of playing the support role because he's very weak and he can't really do a whole lot. So he's going with he's going with a group of other parties, and I think they're all like D rank or something. And then there's a C ranker healer who's a friend of his. It's a lady. I don't remember her name. But she's a friend of his, and she's really nice and kind to him and has kind of continually looked after him and helped him because she's much, much more powerful than him. But also she's a healer, so she kind of heals him a whole lot, and she kind of attests, and we get to see some character background from him and seeing that he's, you know, really trying. He's really trying hard. He's continually fighting and going over and over and trying and trying and trying and trying. So this is another good aspect for her. I feel like it looked more like she has a beard than hair, but she has long hair. I'm going to write that down so nobody can disagree with me. And so we can kind of get, again, to this idea. Because, again, we're trying to get to the audience to this payoff. And this payoff could be the end of the episode, the end of the series, the end of the show, the end of an arc. You can kind of imagine wherever you want this payoff. And oftentimes what this payoff is you have a payoff, and then it pays off, and then it begins another arc. And you have another arc, and you have another payoff, and you have another arc, and you have a payoff. Or all of these are built into one larger arc, which then, you know, you have, which basically kind of overall looks like this, you know, full of mini arcs. You can play it off and use this different ways, but I just want you guys to think about, why is the audience continuing to go into my story, and what are we building towards? Because you want to have a central theme and focus that everything's building towards. So what we're building towards with this foundation here is we have a weak character, and he's trying really hard. This is what we're building up. Now, I know where it's going, but let's see if you guys can guess where it's going. If you've seen the show or know it, you know exactly where it's going as far as a much stronger main character, but we're starting off, again, with him being fairly weak. So, they're going through this dungeon. They kind of decide to go, you know, left or right. They end up going left. They go into this dungeon. It ends up with this whole room, and then they wind up in this room with a whole bunch of statues. All right, this is a statue. This is exactly what they look like. This is, you know, they do not look any more detailed or actually scary or anything like that. They don't look anything like that. This is how they all look. So, for these, they end up in a bunch of statues, and they're trying to, and then the door locks, and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and they're kind of in this circular room, as it were. And so this is kind of like this middle area, and there's these statues all around. And immediately people just start dying. They start dying. They're running around, and these statues are just, you know, they're killing these people left and right. They're really powerful, much, much stronger, and they're saying, what's going on? This shouldn't happen, because the dungeon itself had a rating. The dungeons themselves have ratings that you can figure out and go, hey, this dungeon is an E rank dungeon or a D rank dungeon. So this dungeon is full of weak monsters, so the weaker guys can go and fight it, and that's okay. So we can leave our rarer, stronger guys for the real big dungeons that we need to worry about. So that's what you can have from there. But it turns out something went wrong. This has never happened before as far as these guys know. This has never happened before as far as we know. Actually, I shouldn't say it as if it doesn't happen. As far as the world, our understanding of the world is this has never happened before. And so then what we have here is it kind of goes and continues on this path. And people start dying up until Jin-Woo begins to figure out, and there's some text with some squiggly things with this creepy nun-looking statue who also looks exactly like this. And basically he starts figuring out that, hey, they need to not move. Don't move. And so he gets everyone to stop. A lot of people are dead at this point. So a lot of people have stopped, and then they stop getting killed. And he starts figuring out there's rules. There's rules here to this kind of area. And this is an interesting and kind of a key aspect, because remember, our main character is an E rank. He's terrible. He's really, really weak. So, but we need to have some way. Again, if you're thinking of sort of a training arc, because what we're starting off with is a character down here. He's very weak, but we want to get him up here to where he's very strong. The main character has to earn it. You can't just give it to him. Well, you can. Turns out I am actually very wrong in that. You can, and that's all modern isekais. But this is better than all the other modern isekais. This is the reason why this story works, and a lot of them are just mediocre crap. They're fun crap, sometimes. A lot of times it's just mediocre crap. So this is the training arc here, and what you have to do is sell the audience that the main character earns it. So you can't do that, though, if you can't get stronger, and two, if your main character is really weak. You have to find a new metric. It can't just be raw strength. It basically has to be something else that's coming into play, which of course we have brains, intelligence. And this is what our main character can use. So just think about it this way, where, hey, if your main character can't excel in one area, they can just do it in another area. Even though the whole world is set up about this ranking system, turns out he's really smart. And this is kind of what we're playing on. Okay, so he's really smart. He figures out the rules and figures out what it is. And people start dying, and then one guy runs off and abandons them, and he runs for it because he realizes that so long as somebody's, I think, on this middle part, nobody's going to die. So he runs off and abandons them, and then until there's only 3 people left. Basically, it's the captain and Jin-Woo and the girl. Everyone else is dead, dead, dead. Dead. See what I did there? So we got the captain and her and main character, Jin-Woo. So what Jin-Woo does is he sacrifices himself. He does a great main character thing where he says, all right, captain, take this girl. She's much better than I am. She's always been looking out for him. I've never been able to do much. I've never been able to pay her back. Let me pay her back this once for everything she's done for me. Take her and leave. So he takes her, and then they leave, and then they leave the main character behind, and he's like, all right, screw it. I am going to fight to the death against these things, screw my lot in life. I really wanted to do better. I really wanted to fight these guys. I hate this. I don't like this. I never wanted this. I wanted to live. I wanted to do better. I wanted to mean something. I want my life to mean something. And then he's offered an opportunity. A quest. A secret quest has been unlocked because he sacrificed himself. And he now gets to make a choice. He can now accept the quest. There we go. Himself. Sacrifice himself, take the quest, or die. Naturally, he takes the quest, and bam, now we end. So then we start 3 days later. He wakes up in the hospital. So real quick, I just want to recap what has happened so far. So what we did, we established a weak character. We kind of established that there's no point in getting stronger. This is the world, so there is no getting stronger. So if happenstance there was somebody who managed to get stronger, that person would be very unique and very rare, which again, this is kind of setting the stage for things to come. This is that, we're building this action. So if you think about the episode, we're building all this action, and then they start getting killed, and stuff starts going wrong, and it gets worse and worse and worse and worse, if you want to look at it that way. Or we're building up to this point where, hey, it's been rising action, better action, faster stuff is happening faster. And he wakes up 3 days later. 3 days later. All right? He saved some people, so he's a good guy. He's proved himself kind of as a hero in some aspect, despite the fact that he's so weak. He's kind of proved himself in that regard. So there's that. He's 3 days go by, and from here we get to figure out what happened. So he goes here, he's getting a meeting. There's the Hunter Association shows up and says, hey, what happened? He tells them what happened. They're like, well, that seems to check out. We don't really know how you got out alive, though. This is very confusing. We also don't know how this gate appeared. All of this is an anomaly. So we don't understand. A lot of questions, and you're kind of weird, so we're going to figure out. So they do a power level reading, and it turns out he's still weak. And they're like, huh, Okay, because apparently there are these things where people can have a double awakening. So it's a hero who's awakened, he gets his one power level, and then he awakens again, something traumatic or stressful or whatever happens, and he can awaken again. That's an option, apparently, that can happen to this character. But we need to figure out if that's actually what it was. We don't actually know what it was. And then it turns out, okay, so the main character gets up. He kind of notices, hey, some stuff seems to be a little bit different. People kind of look at him differently. He seems to be, weirdly enough, better looking. But again, this story is written by a guy, so he covers the important things. Our main character's now got 16-pack abs, all the important things. He seems to have gotten stronger, at least in the very least. So he's getting stronger, and he starts seeing these screens that appear to him like in a video game. Again, the screens parts is one of them where they don't really, the main character doesn't dwell on it too much, which is good, because I think you almost should try and minimize that. I don't know, maybe I'm the person who dislikes bringing the video game elements into the real world, making it too overt, too obvious. But either way, nevertheless, he's starting this off, and so what he does is he starts getting these quests that appear before him. And for these quests, what you have to do is, in order to successfully do the quest, you have to, run. It'll be like run this long. It'll be push-ups. It's sit-ups. Basically, all this stuff. It kind of has a whole bunch of all of this stuff from there. And when he does it, he gets some good benefits. And one day, though, he decides, I'm kind of tired, I'm going to skip it. And once he skips it, he gets, again, teleported into this dungeon and basically almost killed. And he's chased around and almost dies, basically. And he's just running around, trying to survive. And then finally, after the time he has to survive, I think for 24 hours, and then finally he survives and gets out, and he goes, okay, I'm going to complete every single quest. And what we start seeing is these quests are leading to him getting stronger. Again, this is the training arc we're seeing. Audiences love training arcs. Everyone loves training arcs. Naruto is like 50% a training arc TV show, and it's great for that reason. Because what it is you're building towards this payoff. Again, if you want to think of this is Naruto learning Rasengan, the Rasengan power. I think that's it. Rasengan, and then he's got to learn, train, and this is him like using the Rasengan spell against, trying to think of who he uses again, Orochimaru or Kabuto. I think it's Kabuto. He uses it against him first. Yeah, he uses Rasengan at first against him, and you can kind of see this, but then he uses it against Sasuke, and then he develops it even stronger, using it against that one member of the Akatsuki. But this is what it is. You're building towards this. We're working really hard for the payoff. And that's what everyone really understands that metric. So if you can sell the audience on the build up towards this, if you can get the audience to halfway, or at least to a little bit started on the training or the build up, they'll wait and see the end because they want to see the payoff. They're like, listen, I've invested this much time, but also our main character, our hero, has training and trying to get all the way up to here. So what do I need to do to see him get to the next level? You want to see him succeed. Also, you want to see him use the power. You want to see him. It's like buying a toy, working at a job to buy something, to wait for it, to get it delivered, to unbox it, to build it. Now you get to use it. And all of that is part of the experience. This is all of what you're trying to use. You have this payoff at the end of it. So this is what we're doing. This is the reason why we like quests. We also have this real world application for it, where again, he's trying to look after his sister and his mom, and he's getting money for the first time in his life. He's getting figured out. And all of this is kind of building towards wanting to see where the main character goes from there. We want to see what happens next. And this is the part that's pretty cool. This is the part where you've won. Basically, if you can get to this point where you can get the audience kind of going from one step to another, they'll continue watching. Because what they want to see is they want to see the payoff. They want to see where it leads from here. We want to see the main character use his cool powers. We want to see him be powerful and be cool in those moments. But yeah, I think that kind of covers most of what I wanted to talk about today. Because again, I was just kind of talking about the intro section, if you want to call it for that, for solo leveling, kind of where it slowly builds up and where we're moving from there. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this one, and I will see you in the next one.